And away we go.
And it's episode 27. That's Steve. I'm Al. And today, East Side Pie.
East Side Pies.
is I got anchovy and pineapple. And
I got pepperoni and jalapeno, and this is, if you've been watching these, this is a place we've been to. I was actually
Many times, yeah.
Our first episode was actually inside of East Side Pies. We stopped doing it inside of restaurants because of the conversation, content within our conversation. We just didn't want to start anything. Somebody's got their family there.
right. And also the peripheral noise and stuff.
Yeah.
Then,
It just got too difficult. We did the first couple in the restaurants, but then we started doing it here and on the rooftop. We should go up to the rooftop again soon when
Yeah.
it's nicer out.
Yeah.
I liked it up there. It's nice. You can see the whole city. I don't go up there quite often enough. But this is, 27 part 1.
And what, the Super Bowl?
You want to start with that?
Yeah, it seems like that would make sense to start. So, actually, you know what? Let's start with the game. The point of mentioning the game itself is that we're somewhat kind of happy that the Seahawks won, only because that was the team that was owned by a woman who has never supported Trump. And otherwise, we really couldn't give a shit. But, okay, so that part is out of the way.
Well, I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
We've never had this discussion before, but I'll agree.
Yeah. I mean, I don't care about team sports in general, and I care less about football, American football, than I do some other things. So, but the Super Bowl is kind of like one of those things where even if you don't care about football, you kind of care some about the halftime or the opening entertainment or the ads or some of that kind of stuff. So obviously we're going to focus mostly on the halftime, but we could also mention the opening, which was Green Day, who did sing American Idiot. They did not completely shy away from that. They didn't yell about it as much as they might during one of their normal concerts, but they did go there, so to speak. Bad Bunny, I've been listening to his stuff. Interestingly, even though I consider myself a semi-decent Spanish speaker, I have a hard time understanding him, but that's neither here nor there in many ways. Because the point of what he did was a visual spectacle as much as anything else. And there were several clear messages, all of them good ones, that were pretty clear, especially at the end where in English he said, love overcomes hate or is greater than. I think it was written out actually. And then before that, there was actually a real wedding that he was a part of. Apparently, they asked him to be a part of the wedding, and then when he discovered he was going to be a part of the Super Bowl, he said, well, you want to be a part of the Super Bowl? So, okay. A large part of what he did was kind of give a nod to all of the different countries that make up the Americas, but specifically the Hispanic isn't a good word for it, but the Spanish-speaking diaspora of the Americas, but specifically, of course, Puerto Rico. A lot of people were looking up afterwards. Hey, what did this mean and what did that mean? And it had to do with the sugarcane fields, and that was the grasses that people were wearing on their heads to represent the sugarcane.
It was literally a sugarcane field.
Yeah, it was literally supposed to be a sugarcane field. Yeah. There was a point where he went up a telephone pole, and that was to represent the failed electrical system in Puerto Rico, which again they are technically a part of the U.S. I mean, they are not a state yet, but so that's a failure on our part that exists. There was a little boy that a lot of people mistakenly thought was the same little boy that had been taken by ICE. It was not the same little boy, but he was chosen because of his resemblance. He was chosen to make people think of that. So it wasn't an accident, but it wasn't the same little boy. If that makes any sense. Also got a number of well-known celebrities, including Lady Gaga. And anyways, I did not actually watch much of it except for in replay clips. But no one that I have any respect for has said anything bad about it, really. I mean, it was what it was supposed to be, and it was well done from what I hear.
Okay, so one of our first episodes, I think, might have been the very one that we did inside of there. I think we did, or was it a week later? I can't remember, but I remember us saying like, "Oh yeah, that's right, the Super Bowl's tomorrow."
Yeah.
So, and I think it was in that restaurant. If I remember.
Could have been. Yeah.
Or we're like, I didn't even know it because when I was thinking too, I was like, well, who the hell is even watching this anymore? And this is one of those things where it's like, it's my bubble that I'm talking about here, because obviously this was, last year was one of the most watched, and this year was the most watched or something. And at least the halftime was definitely the most watched. And I believe last year was, comparable numbers, like huge numbers of people watching this thing. And, globally, not just internet, or not just in here in the United States. So, Al and I, I'm just not interested. I haven't followed, sports in years, any of those. I do like watching Olympic sports, and occasionally I'll turn on some sports. But, yeah, just not my jive anymore. I used to be into the Bulls big time in the 90s, but outside of that, Bears when I was in high school, I was in sports, I did, but just kind of gravitated toward, had a lot more interest, but every time the Super Bowl, as you mentioned, comes around, it's a big deal for a lot of people, and it just becomes news whether you want it in your life or not. It's just there, right? So, and there's always some kind of controversy every time, whether it was Janet Jackson with the nipple slip or, there's always something. Yeah. There's always something.
Sometimes it's bigger than others, but it's always there.
Commercials and the stupidity, and I don't buy into that hype ever with the commercials. I could give a flying rat's ass about commercials. Go shove that up there. I don't care. But, the halftime shows, sometimes they do have some very interesting shows, and, and especially, it kind of gets political, but I think it's all part of the spectacle too, give them their, circus and they'll shut up.
Well, actually, one guy who did not like Bad Bunny made the point that he wasn't chosen for political reasons. He wasn't chosen for any of these different reasons that people want to point out. He was chosen because commercially he's one of the biggest acts out there right now, period.
Right.
It's that simple.
Appease the masses. So yeah. That's part of it. It's almost like they're playing you, but I do appreciate in the last two Super Bowls that, there has been a strong political message last year as well as this year. And, and I think that even the performers themselves have to give a nod to the fact that they know they're being played a little bit here, but they can also do what they want to do too. So, and that's what that's what Bad Bunny ended up doing. And, so he started off just like the history of Puerto Rico with, being slaves, enslaved in the plantations and the fields. And then, it progressed, and then, the migration and how even in his own life to, New York and Brooklyn and every place that he was showing along the way. So it starts out and you just go through this little journey with him, and then he comes across like these bodegas and these little, these carts and things. And I can't remember all the names, but I'm very familiar with this stuff because I lived in Chicago and I lived in Hispanic neighborhoods and around the Puerto Rican neighborhoods. And, so I know a lot about this stuff and been to Puerto Rico. So he's going through all this, right? And then, like you said, there was the ceremony aspect of it, and then, then it graduated to the, a nod to the hurricanes and to the electrical grids, and I think it was just a real cool representation of the history of Puerto Rico and their resilience, in the face of adversity, and everything, So, and that they're still very proud. They're very proud individuals, like any human should be, in spite of all this bullshit and all this backlash that they're getting. I guess, unfortunately, if you happen to be in the audience at the Super Bowl, you really couldn't see shit for much of the show because it was all blocked off. I've seen pictures of like showing it if you were in the audience. A lot of people are kind of like, what's going on? But if you watch the cameras, and you said you didn't watch it, I watched it in full, the whole wild live, what happened. And I was really impressed. I thought it was a really good show. I was not familiar with his music, but I enjoyed it. It was very danceable. It was fun. It was alive. It was energetic. I've seen multiple videos of people, whole families, enjoying it, of all races and ethnicities, especially Hispanics and Puerto Ricans.
But not exclusively by any means.
Not exclusively, literally in tears. So proud of it, So I know there's controversy around some of his lyrics, but I think that holds true with any artist. You're gonna find some stuff that's gonna be controversial. I don't think as a person he's, probably not a bad guy. I don't know. He's a bad bunny, but not a bad
Right.
I mean,
Bad Bunny.
but I don't know. I don't. But I'm just going from what I know and from what I saw and what, So I kind of enjoyed all of it. Outside of that, what else is left to be said? The Super Bowl itself was a snooze fest. The portions that I watched, it was just a bunch, a series of field goals and like 2 touchdowns the whole game. So, and I've heard from other people who like sports and are into this stuff say the same thing. The game was boring. It looked boring.
Which it often is.
The very few minutes, because I had it on, like I said, to watch I had the big screen back there, the huge TV I got in here. It's ridiculously big. Which I barely watch anything on unless it's like some movie that warrants a big screen like that, some action or some kind of sci-fi or something. Or in this case, why not Super Bowl? So I threw it on there, but I wasn't watching the damn thing because it's boring as hell. But when when the halftime came on, I was busy doing other things on my phone, computer, and whatnot, and whatever else I was doing, with chores. The glimpses I did get, it was a snooze fest. I understand football. I know football. It was not a great game. Is there anything else you want to say?
Well, I thought we might give a nod to what Turning Point did.
Oh.
In case you didn't know, the Klan rally that was Turning Point felt the need to have their own halftime show, and it wasn't just bad. I caught like a few minutes, and actually, not only did I catch a few minutes, but then I caught a few minutes of Kid Rock trying to apologize for it afterwards. It was, imagine how bad you think it is. It was worse. Like, it wasn't just that his lyrics are whatever, but he couldn't even remember them, and it felt like it was lip synced, but off. The audio was off and stuff, and he knew that it sounded that way. So then a couple of days later, he was like basically trying to throw Turning Point under the bus for the audio being off.
Yeah,
I was like, dude, come on.
Look, the audio's off. What do you mean? Your lip syncing was off the audio, or that when you sang, the audio didn't come through in time, or it came in after? Like, I don't understand what he's trying to say here, but whatever it was kind of mumbo jumbo. I saw those little clips that you said. I didn't see the entirety of it. And anybody here, correct us if we're wrong once again, but I heard he didn't even play his set during the halftime. Like, this concert went on for like a long time, and there was things in between. And like, if you were watching actually during the halftime portion, there was some other jack off on there, some other white supremacist jerk. So, I don't know if you know anything about that.
Anyways, just the idea behind it was kind of garbage, and then they didn't even pull it off very well.
But so racist bigots being racist bigots again. What do you want? That's all they are.